not ventilations, but we have got to be able to do it safe for our firefighters. Has anybody here not seen the video of Fresno, California, the firefighter falling through the roof? So everybody's seen it. Is it burning your brain? That, hey, there were things about that. Now, in no way am I trying to knock anybody. That captain had 25 years in before he had things go wrong. I don't know how many roofs he ever went to, but on that particular one, there were a couple signs that he could have, if he has done a 360, could have possibly seen that would have given him an indication that the roof he was fixing to step on was bad. I want to get to that, but how many here have cut holes on burning houses? Okay, only by the grace of God are any one of us still here today after you went up on a roof above a fire. Do y'all realize there's two things always in effect on every single fire? One of them is gravity, right? The minute you leave the ground, guys, gravity is doing everything it can to try to bring you back down. The other is the fact that fire, smoke, and heat all go up, and you're going above it. So that while you're going up above it, the fire's doing its best to burn out the very structure that you're counting on to hold you up. So what I'm hoping to be able to share with you today is what to look for primarily, before I miss this, what to sound for. The absolute most critical thing you do when you get on a roof is sound it. Can we go to the next slide? It should actually be a movie. Oh no, it didn't end up being a movie.
We'll get there.
I'll tell you why you're doing that. I'm electronically challenged. I put this together today, and right now it's all over the place. If you leave it that right there, we'll talk about this. This is the fire in Fresno. Y'all see the hole down here on the left? That's where Captain Dern went in. The others are what those are the three holes the crews that were still on the roof were ordered to cut. Now here's the deal, guys. If y'all remember, and I hope we can get to the video, this roof over here is the garage down here. And if you don't remember it, I ask you when you get a chance to pull it up and look. This roof, whenever you come in on this fire from the B side, there is every single visual sign to not get on the roof. And that is, number one, there is smoke coming. Okay, coming through the shingles. Just hold that right there. We're a little out of whack here.
Hold on, I can get the other one, it's right here.
That's okay.
That's this one, you want this one?
Yeah, go ahead and give me that one. Is that? No, that's the wrong one. But let that one play. Hey, watch this fireman. Did anybody see anybody sound the roof up to the time he disappeared in the solid ball of fire? If you listen to the audio, you'll hear and talk about the fire's been burning for 30 minutes before they got on the roof to cut off. Can you freeze it? 30 minutes before they got on the roof to cut a hole. Do you realize how much time that pre-burn that is? Ventilation has to be done early. But you have to get in before the fire has time to burn away your support structures. I just found this video today that's sickening if you watch the whole thing, and I don't even know how to tell you to go to it, but this firefighter, none of them sound the roof. They go on the roof 30 minutes into the fire, they walk around, one of them walks and falls right in, and none of his buddies do a thing. Makes you wonder. None of them do a thing. One guy leaves the roof, and the other guy now begins to sound. I'm not sure of the mindset here. But what I want to drive home to y'all with these first couple videos, hopefully, why don't you finish playing that one? Watch the intensity of this. You see a man sounding, he's using a rubbish hook, and I'm going to talk about that. Do you see the intensity of his sounding, the effort? Hey guys, when we sound a roof, there has to be a purpose. And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to back up. For 30 years of my career, I was doing it wrong. I was taught somewhere down the road, I piped and chauffeured at Sevens, and I was told as a rookie, Jenkins always sound the roof, and they did it with a pickhead axe, and by God, every single roof I ever went on in my life, I sounded with a pickhead axe exactly like I was told, but I never knew why. I sounded it. I had no purpose. I bounced it. I did exactly what if you watch some of these others do. I just went through the motions. There really wasn't anything. I knew it was hard to find rafters. So, and think about this with a pickhead axe, how much head notice I was giving myself from where my feet were. Not a lot. So one day, I was a senior captain 46s, and we had a fire right down the street. We saw it out of the station. I get there, I do the same thing I've done for 30 years. Sound the roof with an axe. I've got my guys right on my tail coming up, and suddenly the roof's bad and my axe is going through. Now, let me back up here a little bit. I had numerous in the past, say 4 or 5 years. We've been having numerous close calls on roofs coming apart on us. Roofs that we hadn't expected to come apart. But after this fire, I went back to 46s. There was a little bit, I'm trying to see if I can say this. There was a little bit of a butt pucker going on. I was being pushed by my own crew coming up, and in the smoke, they couldn't see what I was feeling with the axe. And so I've only got about a 1 foot, 18-inch head notice that the roof we're going up on is bad. Luckily, I was able to get their attention. We were able to back down. But I didn't have a roof ladder up. I'm sounding with a pickhead axe. I went back to 46s and reevaluated what I had always done. Because what I had always done had been getting me close to being in trouble on numerous occasions. John, were you there at the time when we burnt Lydia?
Yeah, I was out all day.
So anyway, I went back and I thought, now what can I do different? So here's what I transitioned to. First off, I started putting a roof ladder up on every single roof. Not one that when I get there it's steep, not one that looks like it may be bad, but every single roof we put a roof ladder up. Doesn't mean we work off of it, but we put it up there. And the primary purpose is if things start going bad, it gives us somewhere to get to. Now, if I was to rush forward about the next 5 years, it paid off on several occasions. And here's what we started experiencing in 46's territory where I was working. OSB. Anybody not know what OSB is when I talk about it? It is glued together particles of wood that as soon as it gets hot, it comes apart. And so all these roofs, and guys, no matter where you're at, you're probably dealing with it too. You deal with OSB, so we started having a lot of these roofs that literally 4x8 sheets of OSB would be gone when we got on the roof. And so I transitioned to a roof ladder and an 8-foot steel New York hook. Now, not everybody has an 8-foot steel New York hook, but I can tell you, even an 8-foot pipe pole, it doesn't have to be steel, fiberglass, something with a small surface area. And now, I don't mean to knock tools, and let me tell you this is my opinion, in no way represents the opinion of the Houston Fire Department, or for that part, maybe any other. But this is what I've learned from my experience. I want something with a small surface area. A rubbish hook, which is a tool we always take on the roof for clean out, has got too wide of a surface area, and I just cut a hole 2 tours ago where a rubbish hook probably would not have given us the advanced warning that what we were dealing with, because it covers too wide of an area, and all it takes is a small area to be burnt out to where if you step on it, now your leg goes through. When your leg goes through, now we have kinetic energy, momentum, and everything starts to go downhill from that. Does that make sense? Can we go to actually, the first one would be nice if we could play it.
The condensed.
Yeah, that's it. something we've got to remember, guys, is smoke is fuel. And today, smoke burns more like gasoline than it does diesel. When I came in, we were told smoke, when it lit off, it was like diesel burning. Today, it's explosive. It happens fast. You guys deal with a whole lot worse situations than I did 38 years ago when I came in. Can you freeze that right there? You see the smoke coming out around the soffits, out of the eaves. Does anybody not see the smoke coming? Y'all saw where there for a minute, you couldn't even see the roof. Everybody saw that? Yeah. Okay, as this crew opened the hole up, they relieved the pressure. When they relieve the pressure, the smoke's no longer being pushed under pressure down where it doesn't want to go through the soffits, but it's starting to all go up. Now you still have smoke coming out the soffits, but as you watch this play, it's going to stop. That's what we look for as an indicator that our ventilation is effective. Fire, smoke, and heat all want to go up. They all do. It's our job when we go on the roof to let them do that. But if we cut small holes that are ineffective, we're never going to stop that. And that's an indicator of what we're still going to have on the crews on the interior. Can you play that? Okay, freeze that for me if you can. I'm going to wear you out. I'm making you do the job I couldn't do because I couldn't put a PowerPoint together. Did y'all see the tools on the ladders? Yes. A rubbish hook and an 8-foot New York hook. Does anybody else attach their tools to a ladder they take to the roof? Anybody? Okay, one. Hey, it's another thing we changed to. Think about this when it comes to the amount of time you have. The sooner you get up on the roof, the sooner you get the hole established, the better off it gets for people on the interior, for firefighters on the interior, and the safer it is for you. We eliminate a big amount of time by pre-staging our tools on the roof ladder. This roof ladder is the one that's always going to go on every single roof. The hooks all get deployed, and this ladder goes up right as the captain gets to the edge of the roof. He'll pull the New York hook off, and that's what he sounds with. The rubbish hook stays on there until the roof ladder gets placed. If the clean out man, if anybody needs it, it makes a good foothold if you bury it in, but it's there, but it's not a good sounding tool. It's not as good as something with a smaller surface area because it's not going to give you that head notice that you're necessarily into bad decking. And I had just written something not long ago, and I really blasted OSB. That was my number one concern on roofs was OSB decking. And since that article I wrote, and we had a firefighter southeast side of town fall through shiplap decked roof. We had a firefighter southwest side fall through a roof with 1/4 inch plywood decking. It's not even called plywood, it's called luans for making furniture. So it's not just, I cut a hole the other day and it was again shiplap, but there's different grades of shiplap. So we never know exactly what kind of decking we're dealing with. We had a fire on 3/8 plywood on 2-foot centers. So it's not just OSB. So if any of y'all have read that article on Facebook, I blasted OSB and I was short-sighted, and God said, hey, wake up. It's not just OSB, it's everything. Any kind of roof can be compromised by fire. And the job when we go up on that roof is to determine the structural integrity of that roof that we and our crews are going to walk up on. So if there's any one thing that I can drive home to y'all, you have to sound the roof. And if any one of you, it should always be the officer. That's the way it should be. But if you have an officer that doesn't have experience and you have a veteran firefighter, then it ought to be the veteran firefighter. You gotta have the person that's most qualified, irregardless of the color of their badge. For some officers, that may be hard to do, but to do, you've got to take the person that has the most experience on a roof, put that person in charge of making a good, sound decision on the conditions, whether it's viable for us to get up there and get a hole established, or if we should get off. Does anybody have any questions about sound? And I know some of y'all told me when y'all came in the door, you use a rubbish hook. I hate to knock it, but remember, I used to use a pickhead axe. The rubbish hook runs circles around a pickhead axe, but the roofs today, y'all know that every single day, not one day goes by that fires become safer for y'all, right? We're dealing with new materials, lighter, cheaper, age of the buildings, fires burn faster, put off more heat. Technically, they don't. I was corrected on that. They release heat faster. My mistake. Put off a whole lot more smoke. Can we go to the next one? I took it. Okay, here you go. This is Captain Turner. Everybody familiar with Captain Turner falling through the roof? Hey guys, do y'all realize how close Captain Turner came to being just another picture on a wall? Only by the grace of God and the fact that Captain Turner was riding on ladder 19 with a regular assigned crew is he here today. Can you imagine if he'd have had a fill-in or a debit day or an overtime that didn't want to be on a roof, didn't want to be there to begin with, didn't really care that much about being there? If you watch the whole video, the second Captain Turner falls through, someone hollers, "Get off the roof, get off the roof, get off the roof." Now, I know all of you guys are interested in being on a roof and knowing how to cut a hole and how to do it right. But does anybody disagree that we've got a lot of people that have no desire to be on a roof? This firefighter right here is probably the most impressive thing I've ever seen in my career. Pete Ing from 19s doesn't hesitate for 1 second to reach into those flames and pull Captain Turner out. If there'd been any delay, do y'all all realize your mask melts off your face in about 10 seconds direct flame contact? So he didn't have any more time. This was a simple little bitty house fire. They thought they were going to go through or cut a hole, but that's not the way it turned out. So if you get that opportunity to go to the roof, it's critical that you never walk anywhere you have not sounded. Let me tell you what I do. I sound my way all the way up to the ridge. I go down the ridge to where I'm going to cut my hole. Then I have my clean-out man who's also brings the roof ladder, always brings the roof ladder. That's if we can't set the roof ladder directly from the ladder, we're gaining access to the roof from that point. Then I sound larger than where we're going to cut. It makes no sense to only sound where we're going to cut, right? We never know, but I confirm that the decking is solid enough to hold my crew and myself. So when we get our hole, I then pass that New York hook off to my clean-out man, and key here too, I always back up. That's what I was taught, it's what I teach. I back up my cutter. That means I have a death hold on his bottle, top and bottom. That very thing, I taught it at NPO class, and I got a captain. I don't know this. Just hang on, I'll talk. This never works out. Pictures and me never work out. I got 180 something PowerPoint for one of my classes. I've never got past the fourth picture. I'm sorry. I apologize if y'all were here for videos. I've got a captain on the southwest side of town. I just taught in an NPO class recently. One of his guys just fell in a roof, and now the captain made a lot of mistakes, but I'll tell you this, he's a captain on a pumper. They were assigned to go to the roof, the truck was assigned to go interior for search. We've all made mistakes, but the one thing he did right, he had a death hold on his man cutting, and his man fell in, and him and the clean-out man were able to horse him out of the hole. So what the outcome, and they had heavy fire below them. So y'all know we had the other southeast firefighter fall through. recently. Now that fire had been pretty much knocked down. But the one key thing, guys, on every one of these, Captain Turner's, Dern's, the Southeast, the Southwest, and I'm sure there's more that we don't know about, is that nobody sounded the roof. Nobody sounded with a purpose. Nobody used the right tool. You can't let yourself be walking on a roof above a fire where gravity's trying to pull you down without confirming that where you're fixing to put yourself and your firefighters isn't sound. Go ahead and play the rest of this, and I want to show you all. Oh, shit. You just find the next picture and click on it. Do y'all, anybody have any questions up to this point? Anybody doubt that we ought to be sounding the roof?
I have a question, sir. What are you listening for? What are you feeling for when you're sounding the roof?
Good question. Did y'all hear what he said? What are you looking for when you sound the roof? I'll tell you exactly, because I just had it happen 2 tours again, and it drove home again exactly why I used the tool I do. I went up on a roof to cut a hole. The roof looked good visually, and there's several ways you size up a roof. The first one is visually. If you can see it, visually, does it look like there's any humps or dips? And I'm going to show you some, which would be an indication of a bad roof. Do you show smoke coming through the shingles? Which, guys, if you see smoke coming through the shingles, looks like little bitty pencils of smoke or tornadoes, that's a sign the decking is being burned away. Don't go there. Doesn't mean you can't go on a roof and cut a hole. It just means you can't go there. The number one rule is that you cut the hole as close as you can safely over the fire. Not directly over the fire at all costs. And the other thing, I see I've got a chief showed up. When a chief tells a crew to go to the roof and cut a hole, he doesn't mean at all costs. And that's what we're running into, are the guys go to the roof, it's bad, they know it's bad, but they tell me, well, the chief told me to cut a hole. I felt like I needed to do it. No chief is sending some guy to the roof to lead a crew up there at all costs. If we gotta get off the roof and back everybody out, then that's what we gotta do. The question about what do I feel for it? When you step off the ladder, you sound the roof before you step on that decking, guys. And I don't know how much force, but I'm trying to drive my point of my New York hook through the decking. I'm not going to sit there and keep hammering in one spot like I'm trying to pull shiplap, but I'm trying to drive it through the decking, and if it's solid, and I can tell you this, I tested it the other day on 3/8 plywood on 2-foot centers with a pike pole, and I could not drive the pig of the pike pole through with what force I was using, and that's what I want. I don't want to get a bad read that every roof is bad, but what I want to do, I want to have enough force, have enough purpose, and when I'm sounding and suddenly I hit that spot where that decking is bad, it goes through. And it can, hey guys, it can happen. It depends on what kind of roof you're dealing with. It can happen in only one spot, or it can happen in a whole area. But when you get that one spot that's bad, that's a red flag. It's not we're not going, but it's something you've got to pay attention to. The roof I just cut a hole 2 tours ago on. The front side of the roof, I was going through, but we were able to make our way to the back side. The back side, where we needed to establish our hole, was even worse. But what we did is we worked, when you get on a bad roof, hang on, this is a hard thing to tell you when to check out. This is one of those deals where you've got part of it's a gut, a whole lot of it's experience. That's why I talked to some of y'all about how important it is to get on roofs when they're not on fire, so that you know what a roof feels like, because you can get on a roof that's not on fire that feels pretty hairy. You start walking on 3/8" plywood on 2-foot centers, you're gonna have some give. But you gotta know what to expect. But 3/8 plywood on 2-foot centers, you won't be able to drag your tool through it. But you put fire on it, you can put fire on 1/2 inch, on 5/8. It doesn't matter. If you put enough fire, you drive your tool and your tool starts going through, that's a red flag. If you get to a spot where you have to get that hole established, you feel you need to, the roof's not too bad, but it's hairy, get down on your knees. Think about this surface area. If I'm standing up, and literally, and golly, I want to find it. Why don't you run through some pictures? This is the hole the firefighter fell through on the southeast side of town. The hole wasn't there whenever he went up on the roof, but the hole was there when he got through the roof. That's not the way we want holes established, guys. We're not supposed to use our, can y'all see how little, do you see how little material is there? Can you see that on the sides? That is shiplap, but it is the thinnest shiplap I've ever seen made. And then the one I did 2 weeks ago was the same stuff. It's about 1/2 inch. Everybody know what shiplap is? That laps over, square cut. Think about this, if it's 1/2 inch shiplap and the lap is half of that, that means each lap is 1/4 inch. And what happens, that lap is the first place it burns away. Well, that's where part of your strength comes from, because it overlaps and supports each other. When that lap burns away, you're talking about only a board this wide that has fire burning out of it, and it is exactly what happened to me 2 weeks ago. Go to the next picture, and we're going to get there. Go to the next. Oh, hang on. Can you go back? This is the Southwest firefighter. This is where the Southwest firefighter fell through and established the hole with his body. You see this? You see, it's not exactly the 9x5 we like to cut. There's a lot of butt pucker going on there, and for good reason. Look at how much fire they had below them, guys. And what on this roof, let me talk about this one real quick. And nobody knows, nobody had been at this house before. This house had been stripped. Now, it had 2x6 rafters, but they had stripped it with 3/8 thick, 3/8 by 3 inch strips. But they were on no particular spacing. Some of them were 1 foot, some of them were 4 inches, but up here at the top where he fell through, they were almost 1 foot apart. So they had strips, but on top of that, they went with 1/4 inch plywood. 1/4 inch. I told you, it's not called plywood. That's what I'm calling it, but that's not, it's made for furniture. But they put that on top of it, and then when that burnt, and what happened, think about this. He went up there, they didn't sound, and he steps between the slats. Well, now he steps between, the plywood goes, momentum kicks in, he goes down and opens up a pretty big hole with his legs. I haven't talked to him, I did talk in depth to his captain. There was a lot of concern going on at that time. But if they could have sounded the roof, but this is a captain on a pumper. Normally, captains on engines don't have a plan for cutting holes. I was a captain for 16 years on a pumper, and I always had a plan in my head, but I never shared it with my guys because we so seldom were called to cut a hole. Captain on a truck, different story. Every single morning, I share and reshare the plan for cutting holes. So a truck crew, a pumper crew, you're never expecting to get the same quality of job out of. Not saying you can't, but that's not what they normally hone in on. But they're gonna die just as easy as a guy on a truck. They make a bad decision. The outcome falling into solid fire is not gonna be any different. So we've been extremely lucky. Can you go to another one? Now this is the back side of the roof. Opposite, they cut the hole on the front side, and this is the back side, and you see the lower crossboards? Well, actually, they're all the same size, but you see the spacing, how far apart they are? That decking on the other side of that is 1/4 inch. So they actually cut the hole where the bulk of the fire had been. They would have been better off, and guys, there's no problem with you. Sometimes you gotta write off a certain amount. Again, I'll stress, you don't have to cut it directly over the fire. It's as close as you can safely. Smoke's gonna travel. Now, we don't wanna go to an apartment complex with a common attic, have a fire on the north end, cut a hole 300 foot over on the south end. That's gonna have negative consequences. But if you go 20 or 30 foot over from, you're not gonna hurt the guys inside. There's people that'll tell you they will, right? They'll tell you if you cut the hole, if this is a house, and you're coming in the front and the fire's in the back and you cut the hole in the middle, they're gonna tell you you're gonna pull that fire right over on those guys, right? Is that what they're gonna tell you? Chief, is that what they say? Is that what really happens? Guys, fire, smoke, and heat go up. So what is smoke? Smoke's fuel. They cut the hole, they punch through, they bring the smoke up over your head. In all honesty, sometimes it makes it easier to find where the seat of the fire was. You got a line in your hand. It doesn't mean it brings a wall of fire at floor level. And so sometimes guys are scared about where to cut the hole, and then they make bad decisions and try to cut the hole somewhere it's not safe to do it. And now, when I say safe, there's nothing about our job safe. Not one iota of it is safe. The minute you start to get 1 inch off the ground, it's no longer safe. But we can make it safer by making wise decisions and knowing what to look for. So whenever I feel with my tool, I'm looking for that tool to go through. And believe me, you'll know it. But you got to use it to know it. There's all kind of, if I could have showed the video, you would see where we've got a crew that never sounds. They walk made good choice, went up a valley, good choice, strong point. Got to the ridge, good choice, on the ridge. Never sounded the decking. And then we got a firefighter fall right through. The decking itself had all the signs. There's smoke coming through the decking. That's a sign. Don't go. Don't get on the decking right there. But you're not always going to see those signs. I was teaching a class one day, and I made the statement that most of my fires, I have limited or no visibility when I cut a hole. And the chief at the station I was teaching at, he said, Jenkins, I don't agree with that. So he got a white shirt, so automatically I had to assume he was right. So I went back to my station, I talked to my guys. No, he wasn't right. And if he was so unright, I went back and looked at all kind of videos I've had over the years and limited or no visibility. The only time you have good visibility when you're going up on a roof to cut a hole is when you're drilling. If you really need a hole, you're going to have limited or no visibility. And so there's ways to size that roof up when you can see it, but so often you can't. And then it becomes imperative that you sound that roof. You have got to sound that roof. And then your crew has got to follow right in line with where you're at. And if they can't, if for some reason they lose track, they have to know they have got to sound the roof for themselves. We can't just be walking over these roofs hoping for the best. Can you change? Did I answer?
Yes, sir.
I didn't.
You did.
I didn't. I can tell that. You didn't give me that. Yeah, I understand.
I got
Hey, I don't know a good analogy. Short of doing it. No, I tell you what, right here, that's perfect. This is the way God works. Look at that. This is absolutely perfect. Right here. If this roof had not been burnt, look at where the decking was on top of the slats. Okay? So imagine that I get up there and I walk on that roof and I sound with the wide tool. And when I'm hitting it, I'm hitting a slat. I'm not hitting a slat, but I'm getting a bad read.
Your force is distributed over the width of the tool.
That's exactly what it is.
Your black bullets concentrated on that one force and
You're trying to find the spot. You're trying to find the spot. It may not be the whole area, but you darn sure want to know that you're getting in an area that is now being compromised. It does not mean we're not going to continue to go up the roof. It depends on how bad it is. The case in point, and God, one day I'm going to get me a helmet cam no matter what they say. It may be in my next life. Because so often, if I just had a helmet cam and you could see, and then I could show you and say, this is what we're looking for. But 2 weeks ago, it was exactly what I'm talking about. The roof from the ground looked perfect. There was no indication of sag, no dip, no indication the roof was bad. And it wasn't until I stepped off of the ladder, and the first time I drove that pipe, and I might not have been the first, I may be lying there, but certainly within the first 3 feet, I started to get indicators that the fire had been there, and I had a bad roof. So the farther I went up, I had to slow my man down and make sure that I could sound solid to get up and get over to determine where we were going to cut the hole. But once you do it, it's all about surface area. It's all about surface area. I want, if you got too wide of a surface area, guys, my opinion, again, no way represents the opinion of anybody else, but my opinion is that you have too wide of a surface area, you can miss a sign that tells you this roof has been compromised. And by missing it, you can go in. And mark my, no, I don't even want to say it. Y'all realize, how many guys here are from Houston? Do y'all realize we went 105 years in the city of Houston? 105 years without killing a single firefighter inside a burning building. 105 years. And since 96, we're at 13 or 14 that are killed inside burning buildings. The fires are different. What y'all deal with is so much different than what I dealt with as a rookie. What I dealt with for the first 10 years of my career. The fires are different, construction's different. So we can't keep doing the same thing. I mean, hey, I talk about this all the time. I don't go to a single station that I don't talk about rooftop safety and GPM flow and cutting big holes and a whole slew of other things till they run me off or I catch a run. But you cannot flow enough GPM and have your butt kicked to be driven out of the fire. But if you make a bad call on a roof and you fall in, just think about it. If we had in Houston, if we had 9 lives, if God said, I'm going to give y'all 9 chances to fall through, how many have we already burnt? Hell, this year alone we've burnt several. We can't keep doing this. And whenever I watched the videos today, when I tried to put this was going to be my masterpiece PowerPoint until I found out that different computers work different. It's too critical to make a mistake reading a roof. I'm a firm, but hold that thought. I'm coming right to you. I am an absolute firm believer in cutting holes and cutting big holes. I'm a firm believer in using the fan. I do what the fire tells me to do. I do what the conditions on scene tell me to do. But I know how extremely effective cutting a big hole is. I also know how fast the fan is. So we can't give up ventilation. Hey, what was your question?
At any point in your method, you use the tick.
The tick. Good point. You're going to keep going. They gave me, first time I ever gave a class where they gave me a list of things I needed to talk about. Normally they say, hey, you got this much time and then you got to get going. But now I forgot my list, so keep me on track. The tick. Hey, in all honesty, I tried to use the old tick, the one that weighed 5 pounds. Then I tried to use the one that weighed 2 3/4 pounds. And it wasn't until we got the one that we told Scott what we wanted, the one we have now, that I started using it. And it has worked incredibly well in the right situation. But the thing about the tick, it's only going to tell you, it's only going to give you a heat signature if the fire's made it to the attic. Now, we go to the attic sometime, we go to the roof sometime when the fire hadn't made it to the attic, right? So then we're gonna have to use good common sense, look at the smoke, look at the condition, determine where we're gonna cut a hole and punch through, take the fire to the attic to get it off of our crews and civilians inside. But the tick, let me tell you a quick story. I was at 26's riding with Chief Chavez. We made an apartment fire, pull up, we got fire started on the first floor, and now it's 6 apartments wide on the outside, and I'm going to the roof to cut a hole. And I know exactly where I'm going, because I'm looking at the pumping crew advance the line right about in the center, so I know in my mind, I'm going right in the center of this motor scooter, and I'm gonna cut a big hole. And me and the guys on 26, we had talked that morning, gone through everything about cutting holes. I got up on that roof and I used the tick. And it didn't tell me that's where I should go. I had a heat signature to the left about 30 or 40 feet. I staged my guys on the ridge and I went down the ridge, still didn't pick up anything where I thought I should be, but I show another heat signature farther down the other direction. So I don't know if y'all know Chief Chavez, but me and him came through the academy together, so you sure don't want to make a fool of yourself, and I certainly am a believer in not cutting 2 holes if you can